Hello and welcome to COS Indiana Live as we bring you Roundtable. The Roundtable segment is presented here every fourth Monday of the month at 7 p.m. We'll be focusing on education and discussion of the topics and challenges we all face as we use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Join us now as we bring you COS Indiana Roundtable with our MC, John Ackerman.
Welcome back to COS Indiana Roundtable. I'm your host, John Ackerman, and this is broadcast number 191 of COS Indiana Live. Joining me in a few moments will be our state leadership team plus a special guest. Our topic will be government underreach, a border in crisis. Now, let me explain that. Here at Convention of States, one of our three big concerns is government overreach. But tonight, we're looking at exactly the opposite. When government fails to do its most basic function, which is to protect its citizens. And we're calling it government underreach, a border in crisis. Now, if you have a question or comment about this, you can post it right now. If you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, just click the comment button and enter your comment or your question. You can also email the roundtable at this address, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. You see it scrolling on the bottom there, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Now, before bringing the panel on, let me ask you to help us grow the audience by clicking like and share, and by making a comment or asking a question. You see, the Facebook and YouTube algorithms notice viewer responses. They know that something's going on, and then they show it to more of their users. So help us grow this audience by making a comment and by clicking those like and share buttons. And now we welcome our roundtable participants. From our state leadership team, first of all, welcome Dale Parrish, our state director.
Hi, John. Glad to be with you.
Hi, Dale. Good to see you. And Dale Tipton, our state grassroots coordinator. Hi, Dale.
Greetings, fellow patriots.
And Ken Kashuba, our state communications coordinator. Ken is the one who's going to monitor the comments and questions if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube. And he'll be posting as many as he can fit in during these next few minutes. So welcome back, Ken. And then there's Gary Harbaugh, a member of the Indiana leadership team. Hi, Gary.
Good evening, Patriots.
And joining our regular panel members is Stacy Garrett. Welcome, Stacy.
Hello.
Tell me, where in Indiana are you right now?
So I am currently on the east side of Indianapolis, House District 89, and kind of about the middle of the state.
Okay, well, that gives us a little geographic picture. And what's your connection to Convention of States? How are you involved in this movement?
Well, I started off as a volunteer and then district captain, and I've recently been asked if I would like to volunteer as the state events coordinator. So,
okay, so that's what it means next to your name, SEC State Events Coordinator and a district captain. Well, that's pretty good. Glad to have you here with us.
Thank you.
So our topic is government underreach, a border in crisis. Now, if you get your news from any of the legacy media outlets, chances are that you know very little about what's going on at the southern border. So my first question for the panel is, what is going on at our southern border? And Stacy, as our special guest, I'm going to ask you first. What do you think's going on down there?
what I'm seeing is just unprecedented numbers of illegal immigrants crossing into our border daily.
Okay, that's short, brief,
Yep.
right to the point. Anybody else on the panel want to add to what Stacy just said?
Well, yeah, John,
Yeah, Dale.
I think there's a lot of things going on. There's of course there's the criminal impact of people coming in. These are not just people interested in making a better life. We've got a criminal aspect coming in, gang members. We've got people coming from other countries other than Mexico. So it's just a free flow of people seeking opportunities of sorts in the United States.
Okay. And Dale Tipton.
And strategically positioned at the southern border are some very large cartels that I read are charging on an average of $6,000 per person to bring people across that border. And then, they're kind of at the cartel's bidding to continue to service them in whatever way the cartel might choose, to include smuggling fentanyl and some of the other dangerous drugs that are pouring across the border as well.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that the cartels control the southern side of the border, and nobody gets across without paying that fee. Yeah. Ken, did you have a comment?
Yeah, Dale had mentioned that these are not just people coming across to become American citizens, and they're coming from all different countries. Video revealed the other day that there were communist nationals coming across.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a lot going on at the southern border. And like I said a minute ago, if you're watching the legacy media and just reading the New York Times and Washington Post, you don't have much of a clue of what's going on, because they're choosing to suppress that news. It's important news, and we need to be aware of it. And our government is really not serving the safety and security needs of the populace. So I want to go a little deeper with that and ask my next question. So what are the root causes of this surge of illegal immigrants? Why are people doing this? Okay, Stacy, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, at its base, there are a lot of them that are looking for economic opportunity. They're looking for a better life because they're escaping some significant poverty and some other, corruption in their own governments and so forth. But it has really, really escalated since the current administration took over, because our president has pretty much incentivized illegal immigration. He gives them lots of incentive to come and cross our border and to claim, any kind of, they can claim asylum. They really there's just no checks and balances anymore. And pretty much has been advertising it kind of freely from day one.
Mm-hmm. Even though the vice president went south and said, "Do not come."
Yeah.
I think the people heard a different message. They saw a different message.
Yep.
Okay. Other root causes. Anybody else want to add something? Dale Tipton?
Well, during the Biden presidential campaign, one of the things that was stressed was the potential for amnesty. And the numbers vary, but like the Center for Immigration Studies guessed it to be somewhere about 14.5 million illegals who are currently in the country that could potentially have looked at a shot of amnesty and a path to citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And so once those folks gained citizenship, if in fact that happened, then we've got a thing called chain migration that happens, where if you're a citizen from a foreign country, then you can sponsor aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, etc. And so the estimated total could eventually reach as much as 43 million if that amnesty came to pass.
Wow.
And so, you think about the sheer numbers, and Metro Chicago is what, 4 or 5 million people, and so you're talking about 43 million. So it's a lot of folks.
Yeah.
10 times the city of Chicago.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one of the root causes, the possibility of amnesty and
Mhm.
citizenship in this greatest country in the world. I mean, that's a prize. That's something a lot of people would like to have. But there are certain rules to follow. Dale Parrish.
I mean, you can't you honestly for the person who has a family and truly wants a better opportunity, you almost can't blame them for taking advantage of something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, just think about it. If I can get over the border, I can get my family in. I get free this. I get free that. They're gonna put me where I want to be located in the states. And I mean, it's a very attractive risk to take.
Hmm.
It seems to me. Now, I may be oversimplifying it here. I don't know what you have to go through in dealing with the cartel to get in, but on the surface, it just seems like a pretty reasonable risk to take. It seems
Okay.
to me.
And the hard part about that is, if these people are escaping poverty, they don't have anything to begin with, and so they become kind of indentured servants and slaves to the cartel. And what they're doing is they're telling these people that you have so much money you have to put up front, and then once you get in the United States, you have to work in order to pay off the rest of your debt. And this is where a lot of these undocumented minors and everybody, they're getting human trafficking. They are, being used, as drug runners. They're really taking advantage of people to advance their own interests in the United States by using all these folks that just have no other choice. And that's it's despicable.
Yeah. And if you don't pay your debt to the cartel, they do what?
And what's really sad is that our government, our leadership is, in my opinion, they're complicit in this. It's there because they are providing the environment for this to happen, where it was not nearly the epidemic it was prior.
Right.
Yeah.
And if someone doesn't pay their debt to the cartel kills their family back in their home country.
Mhm.
Right.
And so there's incentive to pay that debt. Gary, did you start to sneak your hand up there?
Yeah, I had a couple things. One, I don't remember which economist it was, but he had the observation that a country can either have open borders or it can have a welfare state, but you cannot have both for the long term because, this is one of the things that's happening. Millions of people, and there are tens of millions more that would like to come to the United States. And when they get, they start the journey. Once they get close, they're going to get, entangled with the cartels who will extract money from them or, other things. It's my understanding they catch you while you're on the way. They take your ID so they know, as you mentioned, where your family is, and they will go kill them if you don't do what they say. And so we're being flooded with not just people, but with drugs and disease and who knows what else. And it's partly because we're a welfare state. And then we have an administration that seems to think it's to our advantage to have an open border.
Okay. So, Dale Tipton.
Well, I was also going to add that during the Trump administration, we built about 460 miles of some pretty significant border wall, and another 300 miles was paid for with the existing budget. And one of the first executive orders of the Biden administration was to immediately stop building, just put a stop to everything. And so not only did you lose the materials and things that had already been put in place, but you left a lot of places unsecured that, could have been taken care of.
Right. So, we could go on because there are probably lots of root causes, but I think we've hit some of the major ones. There are reasons that this is happening, and some of them are valid reasons. Others are the profit motive, the illegal profits that the cartels are making. And we certainly understand all that. So I think we have a pretty clear idea of what's going on and why it's happening. Dale, Dale Parrish.
Yeah, we might want to throw in here as a root cause, I think, and that's political. These are voters. These are future voters,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we all know who thinks they're going to be voters of a certain type.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that goes into the column of a root cause of this whole thing happening.
Stacy?
And there's actually, when they're doing the census, they are actually counting illegal immigrants in our census, and that only benefits the congressional seats for states and cities that that provide the asylum and the all of the coverage and all of the welfare. I mean, that's they have that. It's already in the census laws and census rules. So
there's another cause. There's certain corners of our elected officials who covet these immigrants because they're future voters for their cause. Yeah, Dale Tipton.
Well, we also might add that the taxpayer-funded American Red Cross is actually providing packets of resource material for people in transit, so they know where they can get aid along the way, where they can get food, transportation assistance, and then once they get here, providing maps to major cities, what benefits are immediately available upon getting here, phone numbers on government agencies to contact, etc. And so, the American Red Cross is on the board of FEMA, and I mean, so we've got the government agency that's actually sort of sponsoring these folks coming in whenever it's in fact illegal to do exactly what they're sponsoring.
Okay.
So it's kind of a crazy state of affairs.
It sure is. Yes, Ken.
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. I think it would be a good time to work them in. There's some comments that will probably be covered in our upcoming discussions as well, but I thought it'd be a good time to bring some of these comments up. So let me start with this one here. This is from our friend John Graves. It says that I'm sure that you will get to the topic, but I would like to see some discussion on the fentanyl problem that they say is coming across the southern border and blaming China. So I know might get a little deeper into that with some statistics on that as well. But this was another comment again by John, and it seems to me that there must be some kind of cooperation between China and Mexico that nobody seems to be talking about. So there's a couple of points I thought that were interesting. I wanted to bring them up. Okay,
thanks, Ken. Gary, did you have a comment there?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that just a little bit. So if we look at in the United States, in our history, we've had about 700,000 combat-related deaths in all the wars we've been involved in. But since 2000, an estimated 1 million Americans, mostly young men, have died from drug overdoses, primarily fentanyl, and mostly drugs that have come across our southern border. So this is an enormous cost to our society. When you go back and you look at the 1800s, there were a couple of opium wars where Britain and other countries were getting rich selling opium in China, and led to a couple of wars. And I don't think China has any guilt about their intent on destroying America by sending drugs here. And they're doing a really effective job of it. And it is something, I think John Graves made a good point. Nobody's really talking about this, but this is in a way an act of war, or certainly an act of aggression by China against the United States. And it's having a huge impact.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Gary. Dale?
I read that in the research for this, the leading cause of death currently among the population of U.S. citizens from 18 to 45 is fentanyl overdose.
Really?
And so you think that that's beat out cancer and heart attack and all the other things. And you have, on the whole Mexico argument, a lot of the chemicals are coming from China. That's true whether or not they're already turned into fentanyl or whether or not they're being made into fentanyl by the cartels in Mexico. But the Mexican government has never had a handle on the cartel operations, either because they can't or it's politically advisable to not do so. And so, that cooperation definitely has to exist, or else the cartels couldn't function the way they do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another root cause, and it really bothers me to say this, but America's insatiable appetite for drugs. If we weren't buying the drugs, they wouldn't have a market. And so it's the degradation of our society, and just the coarsening of American life, to where people's lives are so empty that they'll pay any price to get high, to self-medicate and anesthetize their pain so that they can feel good for a couple of hours. And it's just a very troubling thing when you think about that whole thing. Yeah. So I want to move on. Thanks to our viewer for those comments, but I'll move on to this question. I said approximately because nobody knows exactly, but approximately how many immigrants have entered our country illegally in the last 2 years? Tracy, Stacy, I keep saying it wrong, thinking it wrong anyway, but sorry about that.
That's all right.
What do you think? How many?
I've done a little bit of research on this actually, and in 2020 it was right around 647,000 people. 2021 it was 1.96 million. 2022 2.77 million, and right now we're sitting at 1.285 million in March. So since 2020, there's been about 6.62 million, and it's estimated there are approximately 15 to 16 million undocumented illegal immigrants in the United States. And just in the past 3 years, we've seen 41% of that number come across our border in just the last 3 years.
Wow.
That's a lot.
I can't even wrap my mind around those numbers. I can.
Yeah, Stacy, I was just with your bit of research that you've done on that. Do you have any type of breakdown? As I've seen a number of reports. Obviously, we get the major news. We'll talk about families and children, but from what I've seen, it seems like there's a large amount of young men between 18 and 30 or so. Was there any statistics given on those amounts as to how many of those are coming across?
Yeah, I saw them, but I didn't actually write them down. But my recollection is at least half are just single people coming in, not families, not undocumented minors, but just a single person, be it male or female. And that, that's my recollection of what the statistics are, is that it's not even families that make up the majority of it. The majority of it is a single person.
Single young men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw. I think the age like 18 to 44, something like that, is the age bracket. So many of them fall into, and they are men, single men.
Do we think they're coming here for work opportunities, or are they mules carrying drugs, or what?
It's probably a split.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably both.
And I wonder, the big unknown here is how many of these illegal immigrants are part of the drug distribution network, because, they've got the pipelines that go to all 48 of the lower United States.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that they're getting too far into Alaska or Hawaii. That's why I'm limiting it to the lower 48. But they've got the distribution networks. And so these people had to come from somewhere who are selling these drugs. Dale?
Well, another thought is on the national security side. There's an unprecedented number of people who have shown up on various terror watch lists that have been apprehended at the southern border. And the other thought is, you normally think of, it's Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, places like that. But there's Russian, Chinese, virtually every country in the world is represented in coming across that southern border. And if you're a person with ill intent toward the United States, you don't have to any longer worry about fake passports or,
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff. All you got to do is come in with no documentation and say whatever you want and walk through the door and then set up housekeeping. And so the national security threat is tremendous. If you think back to 9/11 and how those gentlemen got here, that boarded those planes that flew into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and elsewhere. It was relatively simple for them, and it's even more simple for the people that are coming in today.
Mm-hmm. It's a frightening kind of thing, Stacy.
There have been at least 1 million that have crossed our border that have just disappeared into the interior of our country, never to be seen or heard from again. Like they have no idea where they are, and many of those that are on the terror watch list are in that 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Including some of the other people that we should be concerned about, Chinese nationals, et cetera, and that's well documented. And, right now with the catch and release program, they get you at the border and then they give you a hearing date. And right now the hearing date is 3 years before you can have a hearing, and they just release them into the country. They can go anywhere they want to and do whatever. They are released. And more than half do not show up for that hearing.
Sure. Yeah. Why show up? Right. You can fly under the radar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like electricity. It follows the path of least resistance. I mean, I get that. I don't like it. I abhor it, but I get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One more question before we take a little break here. And I'm wondering, where have all these people gone? All these millions of people. They're not all in Texas and Arizona, are they? So, Stacy, take first crack at that. Where have they gone? Where are they?
From what I was reading, that 3/5 of the illegal immigrants in the United States have kind of settled into 20 metro areas, from Seattle to the major cities in California, Vegas, Phoenix, of course, a couple big cities in Texas, Chicago, Atlanta, and then the Eastern Seaboard. But the thing that surprised me the most is states like North and South Dakota, Delaware, Idaho, Kentucky, and Washington have seen anywhere from 29% to 103% increase in their illegal immigrant population just in the past couple years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so they're all over the country, aren't they?
They're all over the place. Yep.
Do we think they're in all 48 of the lower states? Okay. Maybe some illegal.
Like John said, nobody's going to Alaska, are they?
Well, I'd go if I could. A lot of land up there.
It'd be interesting to know if any illegal immigrants have selected Alaska to go to.
Yeah. Okay, Ken, what do you have?
And we have a question I wanted to pop in here at this point. It is from Thomas. Did I lose it there? Where we go? Thomas Tedlock, and wants to know, could Congress pass a law defining border protection for the president? Failure to attempt enforcement to be a treasonous offense.
Well, panel, what do you think? Gary, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I mean, the Constitution says that the president's job is to faithfully execute the laws, and he's not doing that. I don't know that we really need another law to, call this treason, because he's simply not enforcing the law. And so, yeah, I don't know. Dale had a thought about that too. I'm curious to know what you think.
Okay, Dale, what?
Actually, I was thinking virtually exactly the same thing Gary said. I mean, it's in the Constitution, and it's already there. And the fact that the border is being, so abused, and I think the effect upon the negative effect upon the American population and upon the taxpayers is so well documented that, I mean, it's an impeachable offense as far as I would be concerned currently. And there's plenty of information to back that up. Whether or not there would be the political will for anybody to pursue it is another matter, but the facts are there.
And I see Jerry Rowe comments that a president would have to sign that bill. Of course, Congress could pass it, but if the president vetoes it, that would be the end of it. So thank you, Jerry, for that comment. Yeah. And I don't know if we have a president now who would sign such a bill, but presidents come and presidents go. About every 4 or 8 years, we get a new president.
We had one more comment I want to go ahead and put up that followed that, John. It's again from our friend John Graves. He's talking about, it's curious that our legislature haven't tried to impeach Mayorkas or Biden on the border problem, which underscores the need for government overhaul, which can only be accomplished through COS. So wanted to throw that in from John.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe it's coming on Mayorkas. Is that how you pronounce it?
I've heard rumblings that they're getting ready to impeach Mayorkas.
Yeah,
Mayorkas,
maybe that's
that's
coming. But boy,
You know,
you gotta wonder. You know.
for him to sit there and to testify before Congress, the border is secure. I heard that testimony. How can he say that?
Right.
You know,
Right.
Well,
he can say because the media certainly isn't an enlightening majority of the Americans to what's going on down there.
this is true.
He can get away with it.
This is true. Okay, well, we're going to take a little break from this. Couple weeks ago, earlier this month, we had a surge day at the state capitol in Indianapolis, and Ken made a short video. We want to show you that video, what happened on that surge day. So roll them.
Okay, folks, mute yourself now when I bring this up, and I'm going to try and give it a full screen here. So we're not going away. We'll be right back. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to present our selection for the Patriot event for the month of March. And it goes to District Captain Chris Takakis. Well, Chris, congratulations. Well, I'll let you just see.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, you want to get a picture? Well, thank you. I guess would be the first appropriate thing to say. I really appreciate this, and this means a lot. Coming from National and my peers and so forth, I'm very excited. I'm a new active member at COS. I first signed on in September. Became a district captain October. So I got through my studying right away and wanted to get to work. And I'm up in Northwest Indiana in Maryville, and that's a tough nut to crack. But guess what? We're putting some cracks in that nut already. And so there's a lot of us up there working hard like the rest of you, and we're going to make a difference. Okay? Now and in the future. So I really appreciate this award, and I will certainly do everything I can to continue to be worthy of it. Thank you very much.
I think everybody here is pretty much aware that right now our legislators are besieged on a daily basis by lobbyists and beholden to campaign cash, and that our opinions are becoming less and less heard simply because of a system that makes us unhearable. So to that end, I'm happy to say Convention of States just approved this motion to become a founding member. This has actually grown to the CCA now has 8 member organizations. It is growing quickly. And what we're proposing is to change the rules of the chamber so that people can no longer hide from the responsibilities they have to represent their constituencies. So these 2 people, the committee chairman and the leader of the chamber, can keep any good bill from being debated. The 3 rules changes we want to start with to make a legislature so that it's more accountable. We want to make it so that committee chairmen are chosen by the committee, not by the speaker of the chamber, the leader of the chamber. That way their power is beholden to a group of people, not to one man. We want to make it so that all procedural objections to stop debate and voting on a particular motion require an immediate vote of the chamber. That way no legislator can hide from the fact that he chose to kill a good bill and kept it from being discussed. And lastly, we want to make it so that there are creations of what are called discharge petitions, so that when a legislator files a bill, he also files a discharge petition that when signed by 40% of the committee or 40% of the entire chamber forces that bill to have a hearing whether the committee chairman wants it to have a hearing or not. And in that way, we can actually overcome the power of a recalcitrant committee chairman, and we can also hold accountable every legislator who does not sign that discharge petition and therefore shows his position on any bill. And in that way, they can be held accountable.
COS Indiana Surge Day. I wasn't able to be there, but it looks like it was a great event. Yes, Ken.
John, before we get into your next segment, I did want to, we had some late comments which kind of go back to where we left off. So I kind of wanted to just push these comments up here because, I recognize this viewer as a new viewer. So I wanted to go ahead and get his comments up here for you.
Great.
First one is Tango Cash says constitutionally immigration power and authority lies primarily with Congress, not the office of POTUS and executive order. He follows that with, I believe it's spelled out in Article 1, Section 8, which he then follows with long-standing Supreme Court precedent recognizes Congress as having power over immigration, giving it almost complete authority to decide whether foreign nationals may enter or remain in the U.S. So wanted to get your thoughts on that.
And Tango is exactly right. The problem is enforcement of the laws that Congress has passed. And Gary, I think you alluded to that, didn't you? We're not getting enforcement of the laws. Yeah. So Tango Cash. Yep. Tango Cash, thank you for those great insights there. Right on point. So that brings us back to the topic, government underreach. So I want to ask this next question. What effect is illegal immigration having on local communities? Because we all live in a local community. So what's going on in cities and towns all across America? Stacy, you're up first.
All right. I've been in healthcare for about 25 years as a physical therapist. And so I know quite a bit about the healthcare system, how it works, et cetera, the insurance funding, everything. And, on top of them bringing in, record numbers of diseases such as, TB and syphilis and gonorrhea and other STDs and COVID as well. These folks come in here, they have nothing. They don't have health insurance. They don't have primary care doctors. And so they use our emergency rooms as their primary care doctors. And they're just overwhelming our healthcare system, the hospitals, emergency rooms, et cetera, because they know they won't get turned away at emergency rooms. And I'm not saying that we should turn anyone away for urgent medical care, because we absolutely should treat those who have an urgent medical need. But an ear infection is not an emergent medical need. And, just in healthcare costs alone, American taxpayers are subsidizing over $42.7 billion. And that's billion with a B in healthcare costs alone. And then once you factor in education and other public services, we're looking at $151 billion a year and growing in what the American taxpayer is providing all of these undocumented folks. And, they're not supposed to qualify for Obamacare and other insurances, but there are loopholes that are being taken advantage of, as well as, state funded medical coverages. And so, they're finding ways around qualifying for Obamacare and, some of the other public and taxpayer funded healthcare. And, we are all paying that cost. I've got a sobering statistic for just the state of New York. It is estimated that the state of New York taxpayers are going to be footing a bill that's $10 billion in 2023 for about 1 million illegal immigrants. And believe it or not, 4.65 billion of that is for education costs, followed by 3.5 billion for healthcare, and then about 1.65 billion for law enforcement and other public services. So if people say it's not affecting you, you're wrong.
Okay. Dale Parrish, I saw your hand.
Yeah. The part that really concerns me is the impact on our educational system and our children, the children that we have, promised an education to. When you bring in all these people and all these minors and you insert them into the education system, it's got to be an insurmountable challenge, I would think, in certain cities and education systems. You're dealing with kids that don't speak English, So you've got a language problem. And not only the challenge then to handle, to deal with these incoming kids, but then that takes away from other kids that we promised to provide an education to. So it's just it's just hard for me to conceive of how our educational system is handling this.
Okay, thank you, Dale. And the other Dale.
I just wanted to read a quote that I came up with. This is from Democratic Mayor Bruno Lozano of Del Rio, Texas, which is, just right down there on the border. And he says, quote, "I am pleading and requesting with you to please put a halt to any measures regarding the release of immigrants awaiting court dates into the city of Del Rio and surrounding areas. We do not have the resources available to house and accommodate these migrants within our country."
Wow. That speaks volumes right there.
Talk about adding to the homeless problem. There
Yep.
you go.
And all of this is to say nothing of the drug problem and the bringing in of heroin, cocaine, fentanyl, terrible impacts on our local communities.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move ahead to our last question, and that is to try to turn the coin to the positive side. What are some possible solutions to this problem? And again, we always turn to our guest panelist first. Stacy?
I think first and foremost, Congress needs to step up and take back their power for the immigration control. And just because the president signed an executive order does not mean that is the rule of law, the rule of land. Congress needs to exert its power, and we need to communicate to our legislators that we will not tolerate this invasion of our country any longer. It is their duty, and we elected them to help protect us as citizens, and they need to step up and do their job.
Okay.
We've got to start reinstituting, and following our border policies. We need to end the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
We need to end coming here for asylum, because it is entirely too hard to prove, and just about anybody claims it, and it's way overused. And the catch and release program's got to stop. We need to reinstate what Trump's policy was, to send them back to where they came from.
Okay, Ken.
Just to kind of follow up on what Stacey's saying there, I've never really been able to get a handle on people not understanding two simple terms: legal and illegal. And a point that I think is never discussed is how do you think the people that are trying to do it legally and are in line and it takes years to get citizenship, how do you think they feel?
I can tell you, I have a couple of friends who've gone through the process, and they are absolutely enraged at what's going on right now. They've worked very hard to become American citizens, and they are absolutely disgusted at what's happening right now.
Yes, Dale Parrish.
One solution is to build a wall. Let's finish building the wall. I think that would help a great deal.
There aren't too many people crossing the border where there is a wall. They're going to where the wall is not. Ken.
We've got a comment from a viewer, one of our well-known viewers, that is throwing up another solution, I think, that hasn't been talked about. And that's from our own Susan Gervais. She says, if I can get it up there, any immigrant who wishes to become a citizen must enlist and serve in our military.
Interesting requirement. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Susan. Gary?
Yeah, I don't think that we can really solve this problem without going after the drug cartels in Mexico, because they are the traffickers for these people. They're the ones profiting from it. And unless we're willing to go after them, and I don't know whether that's militarily or what, but we have to do that to really fix this problem, I believe.
Yeah, it might come down to that. Yeah. The government of Mexico isn't going to do anything about the cartels because they're controlled by the cartels.
So it seems.
It's a tough situation. Dale Tipton first.
I think in the whole issue, one of the other things that happened after this new administration came into power was the Customs and Border Protection was actually given instructions to basically stop doing their duty,
Yeah.
to stop making arrests, to stop looking for people, who were out there who were lawbreakers and who had violated different laws in the United States, and actually try to deport them. And the whole focus was changed to, you're not a law enforcement officer now, you're a processor. And what we want you to do is we want you to aid in moving these people as expeditiously as possible across the border and into the United States. And so they've spent their time, with makeshift shelters and tent cities. And, you've seen all the places where kids have been stored and all those kind of things. So the manpower that should be pursuing a law enforcement function are doing this expediting of moving people function and offering humanitarian help. And it just made things much worse. And so if we simply took a step back and enforced the laws that are presently on the books, then we'd be way ahead.
Okay. And the other Dale.
Yeah, I just wanted to tag on to what Gary was saying. I think if our government determined the cartels to be terrorist organizations, then that would give us the ability to go after them. Am I right?
Well, it would also, and it would block them from having banking privileges in this country. Yep. And
that's
that
actually been suggested. That's been suggested, and Mr. Mayorkas said that they had adequate tools to address the cartels without making them terrorist organizations.
Right.
Well, that's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Hard to believe. So we've got some ideas kicking here. There are some solutions. It's not a no-win situation, but it's going to take political will and courage and probably a change in leadership, because the current leadership is not interested in doing these kinds of things. So we're up between a rock and a hard place in the short run. Well, panel, I want to thank you for exploring these issues surrounding government underreach, a border in crisis, and want to thank you for this, and we'll see you next month. Right now, we're going to go to a message from our national COS president, Mark Meckler, and it's called "The Day I'll Quit Fighting."
Sympathize with people who would give up. It doesn't make sense to me. Sam Adams said, for those of you who prefer safety and security over liberty, over the animating fight for liberty, I hope that you enjoy licking the hands that feed you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. Like, do you understand that your kids and you are sentencing your kids and your grandkids and your friends' kids and your neighbors' kids to a lifetime of slavery and servitude, literally, of fear, of living in the darkness, but never, ever, never, never, never give up. George Washington lost the majority of his battles that he fought in the American Revolution. If you read his writings, if you read the letters where he was writing to Congress asking for money and troops, he was saying, we're losing. I don't have the troops I need. I don't have the supplies I need. Did he quit? What about the guys on the beach at Normandy? Like, what did they do? Did they just quit? Oh, there's, a lot of guys are dying around me. It's really bad. It looks really dismal. Those cliffs are huge. Machine gun fire raining down on us. And it's too hard. We should just quit. Thank God those people didn't quit. If they had, where would we be? I get discouraged for sure. And I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.
Well, Dale Tipton is Indiana's grassroots coordinator, and I want to bring him back on the screen now and ask you, Dale, tell the audience about our Step Up program.
Well, very well. As everybody is probably aware, well, those watching this broadcast, perhaps, there's a lot of problems in the United States, and people are awakening to the fact that there needs to be changed. But one of the problems that we face is our citizenry is largely has been apathetic, non-participatory whenever it comes to doing anything that would amount to any kind of action. They don't know what the government's doing. They don't know what their legislators are doing. Most people can't name their own representative or senator. There's just a lot of work that can be done um, to help promote positive change, but people are used to I guess just comfortable unawareness, and they've just kind of cocooned themselves in that. And we're basically offering people in Convention of States the opportunity to step up and to do something meaningful, to promote action, which leads to awareness, which then leads to change. And so once you get on the landing page here, and there's some nice quotes for you to read that kind of lets you know about what our founding fathers thought. We have a link here that's called Step Up that will basically move you to an area where we discuss the possibilities that individuals have to serve. And so as you look at the page here, the first thing that we see is leadership opportunities. Then we've got volunteer opportunities and community opportunities. We tried to gear this for the different personalities, everything from the type A person that wants to take charge and be at the front of the room to the person that maybe just wants to sit at home and make a phone call. There's options within the Convention of States for service in a variety of areas. We can kind of go through some of these if we want to take a look at leadership opportunities first, just to give people an idea. Um, there are a number of positions, from the state director to district captains, which represent a given house district, event coordinators, social media people, social content writers, all kinds of people that assist with computers and all of that things that basically make an organization go. And these are people that make decisions that provide leadership. And so if you want to step up and be the person in charge of some of these things, we have ample opportunity to utilize your life experience to make that happen. And then to get into the follower, I guess, portion of things, to be just a basic volunteer, we have the same type of things there. You can work in the same areas: social media, prayer warriors, regional legislative liaisons, people that will do things and report to other individuals, but who are not leading the effort, who are just simply taking direction and doing things to move the work forward. And so that's kind of the second level of things. And then lastly, there's a number, and one of the things that are really overlooked many times is the service you can offer within your communities. What is really going on where you live? What's happening in your community regarding school boards, for example, library boards. What kind of books are available for kids, and at what ages can they see them? Is there critical race theory or these strange gender promotions going on within your community schools? How's your town and city council spending its money? Um, there's other opportunities within our movement. Block walking is merely going from house to house with fellow patriots to hand out information. Or on our telepatriot missions, you can actually use a telephone app that we have, make calls to other states that have not yet passed the resolution to promote meeting attendance, voting, etc. That can be done from the comfort of your own home. So all of these things are out there and available, through this link. We tried to post it widely and make it known as much as we can. And we just really encourage people to motivate themselves and realize that there cannot be any change unless we promote it. My contact information is available on each page. You can call me. I would be happy to talk with you at length. I'm a retired guy. I've got plenty of time, and so you can bend my ear as much as you'd like, and we can have a conversation about what you can do to be an involved citizen and be involved in self-governance in your own life.
Well, that sounds good, Dale, and thank you for doing that. You haven't got a whole lot of phone calls yet, have you?
I have not,
Well,
but the door remains open.
Let's flood Dale's telephone. with some calls this month. Okay. It would be great to see a lot of people stepping up to take some leadership and some volunteer and activities in the community. So I want to thank you, Dale. Well, this brings us to the end of this month's roundtable. Before I say goodbye, I want to remind you of our email address. If you have any questions at all about Convention of States, you can email them to us at this address, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next Monday, April the 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern for our weekly COS Indiana Live, when our guest will be Debbie Stewart, who will be talking about constitutional literacy. That's next Monday night. And the next roundtable will be on the fourth Monday of April. That will be April 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm John Ackerman for COS Indiana Roundtable. Good night.